Hey everyone, this is Mike, and today we're talking about Scholar. Now, I think that just like many others, I wasn't really all that impressed with the job action trailer for Scholar. The job got memed on quite a bit for not really getting anything outside of a gotta go fast button, and I agree that it was a bit funny. Astrologian gets this big astral explosion looking thing, White Mage gets the Lily Bell, well, Sage was new, but it looked really cool, and then Scholar just runs fast. It wasn't really all that exciting as what the other healers had to show, but that doesn't mean that Scholar is bad by any means. A lot of people were afraid, myself included, that Sage would kind of take over the Scholar spot, because Sage has one thing over Scholar. It doesn't have a pet, and pets have always been a bit of a mess when we look at the game's lifespan. They're not very responsive, they sometimes ghost actions, it was just clunky, and it didn't feel good that you sometimes had to wait 10 seconds on a skill before the fairy felt like using it. Going into Endwalker, it does feel a lot better. Right before making this video, I set up my dummy for a little while, testing out how I could still ghost actions. For those that don't know, ghosting an action is when you press the button, the skill goes on cooldown, but nothing happens. And I really had to try to force things to get ghosted. Sure, if you queue multiple actions, your fairy will need some time to cast them, but she'll cast them in a fairly quick succession, and it's there that you'll also see ghosting the most. Queuing multiple actions and then making your fairy go away, either through summoning Seraph or by eating your fairy with dissipation. Even when I try to ghost one action by quickly pressing, let's say, Whispering Down into summoning Seraph together, it would often still get the cast off before she changed. Sometimes it would still ghost though, but it's a lot better than it used to be. And this is where the new cast time change kinda comes in handy as well. Because we now have this faster casting Broil, we always want to try to weave our off-global cooldowns after that Broil, as to avoid using Ruin 2, because that would be a DPS loss. But we only get one off-global cooldown slot per Broil cast, so that gives our fairy the time that she needs to cast her own spells, and thus making it feel a whole lot more responsive, as you're not double weaving fairy actions as often anymore. So while it's not something new that we got, I feel like a responsive, or at least more responsive fairy is something that is important to mention, as that was a big pain point for a lot of people that I know that played Scholar. Oh yeah, speaking of responsiveness, your shields apply faster now as well, which is really good for deployment tactics. They've lowered the cooldown on this, and they've also made your Adlo stronger, so this is just going to be a whole lot better now. It's a stronger shield, and you don't need to wait a little while before you can deploy the shield either, because that is another action that would often ghost if you use deploy right after casting that Adlo. So what is new? Well, we have Protraction. This will grant a party member 10% bonus HP, heal them for that amount, and then also grant them a 10% healing buff. So it's basically a weaker version of Thrill of Battle from Warrior, but it's quite nice. It's a heal, gives them some more HP, and also boosts your healing on said person, so there's no reason to just not use this on cooldown on your tank. And then we have Expedient, our gotta go fast button. As much as people memed on it, I actually quite like this skill, because it's not just the movement speed that you get from it, it's also a party-wide damage reduction, and it lasts for a full 20 seconds. Now, I'm not sure when a 20-second damage reduction will be useful, but it's still a nice addition to all of the other damage preventing tools that we do have. The in-combat sprint is also great, when you're expecting it. For example, when I did our new normal mode raids, on the final boss we had a Scholar that would make use of this fairly often, and that fight also has some good moments where it came in handy. Now, when we did not expect it, I almost ran into the wall a few times, which would not have ended well, but because it lasts for 20 seconds, once I knew that it was there, it was quite useful to get into position for certain mechanics. So I think that when you run Scholar in a static environment where you can plan usages for this, then it can make some mechanics a whole lot more comfortable to deal with, or it will allow you to save your sprint for a different mechanic. It's just an all-around good skill, be it either for the damage reduction when you need it, or for the movement speed to make some mechanics easier. And of course, if you're running an expert dungeon and your tank refuses to use sprint, you can just press this to make the dungeon run go faster. So then comes the question, what are the benefits of taking a Scholar over a Sage? Well, both have very similar toolkits, but Scholar is more support oriented, whereas Sage is more selfish, kind of like how White Mage is selfish and Astrologian is the support when we look at our pure healers. The Fairy is also something that can work as an advantage. Whenever you need to be away from your teammates, you can place your Fairy in the middle and she can still heal, mitigate or shield your team, whereas that is something that you wouldn't be able to do on Sage. When I tried Sage in the level 89 Extreme Trial, I often found myself thinking, well, this would be a great spot to use Seraph to shield the team, or I could put down a Soil for when we run back to the boss. Might also just be me needing more time to get used to Sage, because it's still very new and I've played Scholar for about 5 years at this point, but there are certainly arguments as to why you want to bring either of them, and you'll have to make that choice of what you want more. I wouldn't say that one is better than the other, and I think that is a good thing. So all things considered, I'm happy with our current version of Scholar. While we didn't get much in terms of new flashy skills, the quality of life changes to the fairy and our shielding are really good, and the new skills that we did get are quite nice. So I'm satisfied with our new Scholar. And that is going to do it for me, so I want to thank you for watching. I want to thank my Patreons for their support, and I'll see you in the next one.